Imagine waking up after surgery and realizing something feels wrong. Not pain, not confusion, but a hollow sensation deep inside you. That's what patients at Mercy General Hospital began to report. Numbness, memory lapses, missing time, and one bizarre detail that no one could ignore. Every patient had the same dream, a man in a white coat whispering, "You're not supposed to remember this." Welcome to the real-life nightmare known as the Doctors from Hell, the Vanishing Files. Mercy General wasn't always a house of horrors. Built in 1973 in rural Pennsylvania, it served the town of Milford faithfully for decades. But after 2012, complaints started quietly trickling in. Files were misplaced, records were redacted, and some patients who entered were never seen again. At first, it was brushed off. Administrative errors, transfers, insurance mix-ups. But when 7-year-old Claire Tillman disappeared after a routine tonsillectomy, things spiraled. Her parents were told she was picked up early, but the cameras wiped clean between 2:12 and 2:44 p.m. When police reviewed hospital logs, Claire's post-op notes were signed by a name that wasn't in the system at all, Dr. Ashcroft. There was just one problem. Mercy hadn't employed a Dr. Ashcroft in over 30 years. Who was Dr. Ashcroft? In 1981, Dr. Daniel Ashcroft was one of Mercy's top neurosurgeons, known for his pioneering and often risky experimental procedures. But in 1987, he was accused of performing unauthorized brain surgeries on mentally ill patients without consent. When the case went to court, all 17 witnesses recanted. The charges were dropped. And days later, Dr. Ashcroft vanished. No license, no forwarding address, just gone. Rumors whispered that Ashcroft had continued his work in secret, underground. When Claire's file bore his signature in 2019, panic returned. Had he come back? Or had someone never left? The basement below Mercy. In 2020, former night janitor Hector Alvarez came forward. In a blurry cell phone interview, he made a shocking claim. There's a basement below the basement, not on any blueprint. They called it Ward Z. I heard screaming, smelled burning bleach, and sometimes late at night, I'd see gurneys with people who weren't moving. Alvarez was fired 2 weeks later. His body was found in the Susquehanna River 3 months after that. Official cause, suicide, but no water in the lungs. What was down there? Experiments in the dark. A whistleblower nurse named Mia Flanders gave investigators smuggled documents. MRI scans with handwritten notations like, neural interference successful. Subject number 44 resisted sedation. Add compound X6. Time perception manipulation trial incomplete. The scan showed incisions made not during surgery, but after and not for healing. Mercy had become a human laboratory. The terrifying part? None of the altered patients remembered anything, except for one. Subject number 44. His name was Luke Hanley. A mechanic, went in for a hernia procedure. Woke up weeks later with no memory of the surgery, and a scar behind his left ear he couldn't explain. But the nightmares began. In them he's strapped down, bright lights overhead, someone speaking German, a woman with a clipboard writing notes while he's screaming. When Luke went to another hospital for a scan, they found something in his head, a foreign object lodged near the temporal lobe. It was removed. It wasn't a tumor. It was a microchip. When the chip was analyzed, it wasn't medical grade. It matched a prototype patented in 1993 by a defense contractor, one that claimed to be testing remote neural mapping for high-security prisoners. Luke had never been in the military, never in jail. But his name did show up in one place. A list found inside a sealed envelope in the now-abandoned Ward Z. The list was titled, Viable Specimens, Phase 3. And Luke Hanley's name was second. The first? Claire Tillman. She was never found. But what happened to subject #1 would lead to the darkest discovery yet. Before Claire Tillman vanished from Mercy Hospital, before the nightmares and the chip in Luke Hanley's skull, there was one patient, one girl, admitted in 1986 under a false name, She never made it out of Ward Z. Her chart was labeled Subject Number 1. And what happened to her might just explain everything Mercy tried to bury. This is part 2 of the story they didn't want told. The Doctors from Hell and the Ghosts of Ward Z. The Missing Records. When the list from Ward Z was leaked to the public, Luke Hanley's name was terrifying enough. But the first name, marked with a red circle in the word prototype, was Nora Cavanaugh. Her name didn't exist in any patient database. No insurance records. No hospital bill. But one social worker remembered her. A pale, soft-spoken 16-year-old girl admitted under a suicide watch. Her file was sealed almost immediately. And in the notes, a handwritten line. Signs of elevated perception. Unprovoked screaming during testing. Subjects to be sedated indefinitely. Nora's room. Room 3B in Ward Z was sealed after 1987. But a now-retired maintenance worker, Henry Blunt, claimed the room was still intact in 2021, untouched, uncleaned. In an interview, he described what he saw. It was like time stopped, dust thick on everything, a torn mattress, symbols scratched into the walls with fingernails, one word repeated over and over. That word, wake. The room was later photographed by an anonymous whistleblower. In the image, a Polaroid of a young girl tucked in the bed frame, labeled, First Trial, Sensory Deprivation, Cavanaugh, and The Experiment. Internal documents reveal that Cavanaugh was part of an early experiment known only as Project REM. The goal? To alter memory during REM sleep cycles using chemical sedation, deprivation chambers, and subliminal audio commands. One chilling quote from the protocol reads, Objective: silence the trauma by removing the memory. If fear can't be remembered, resistance dies. Nora resisted, screamed, fought sedation. So they took it a step further. EEG scans show high neural activity, despite a comatose state. Doctors called it a breakthrough. But nurses? They called it a haunting. The night shift tapes. Nurse Lydia Malloy kept an audio recorder hidden in her uniform pocket during her 1987 shifts. In the final recording before she quit, this was captured in room 3B. Soft static. Then a girl's voice whispering rapidly. He's inside my dreams. He's wearing my father's face. He won't let me go. Tell them not to sleep. Don't sleep. Don't. Loud screech. Tape cuts off. Lydia left the state. She later told investigators. Nora didn't die in that room. Something else did. Something that never should have been alive. Dr. Ashcroft returns. High-tension viewer retention section. In early 2023, a private investigator connected to the Jordan Miles Foundation tracked a man using the alias D. Ashton, purchasing surgical equipment and nootropic chemicals on the dark web. The buyer's delivery address? An abandoned psychiatric annex 30 miles from the original Mercy Hospital site. When federal agents raided the annex, they found something horrifying. 7 medical cots. 4 bags labeled Cycle 4. 1 operational EEG machine. And on the far wall, written in what appeared to be blood, Subject 1 never slept. The video file, a damaged laptop, was recovered from the site. Inside was a single playable video. Timestamp, February 1987. It shows a sedated girl lying in a sensory tank. Electrodes cover her scalp. Her eyes move rapidly under shut lids. Off-screen, a voice, filtered but sharp, asks, "Can you hear me, Nora?" She jolts, eyes open, but her lips move without sound. Then her heart monitors flatlines. The screen cuts to black. But one frame is frozen at the very end. Nora sitting upright, staring into the camera, and smiling. Days after the video was leaked, the Mercy site was set to be demolished. But demolition was halted when workers found something unexpected in the foundation. A sealed concrete chamber beneath room 3B. It contained 1 bed, and initials NC etched into the wall. What was inside that room sent 3 men to the hospital and triggered a full FBI lockdown. And what they found proves Nora never left. Coming soon in part 3, The Sleeper Protocol, The Red Room Discovery. The sealed chamber below Mercy Hospital, dubbed the Red Room, due to its walls being stained with biofluids and copper residue, contained no light source. But what investigators found inside defied explanation. A perfectly preserved hospital bed, an EEG monitor still powered by a backup generator, and a journal, open to a page with names scratched in ink over and over. Daniel Ashcroft. At the base of the bed was an audio device, corroded but recoverable. The final 7 minutes of tape changed the investigation forever. The tape recording. The tape plays slowly. A soft female voice speaks in a whisper. He said, "If I stay asleep, I can be free." But the dreams got louder. Then I heard yours. Pause, buzzing static. He's still here, even without a face, even when the doctors stopped watching. Then a sharp clink, metal on metal. I remember what they did to the others. I remember my name. You can't keep me here. Then silence, followed by 3 distinct beeps. The same tone pattern used in the sleeper protocol. What is the sleeper protocol? Declassified in fragments by an anonymous source within the Defense Intelligence Archive, the sleeper protocol was allegedly developed during the Cold War. It was a joint project between covert neuroscience labs and black-budget military units. The idea? Create neutralized humans, individuals who could be programmed to forget pain, commands, or even entire identities. The Mercy Hospital variant was Phase 4, not just memory suppression, but dream-based behavioral control. If successful, the subject wouldn't just forget, they would obey. And Nora Cavanaugh, subject number 1, was the most successful failure they ever had. Nora's return. For months after the Mercy site was breached, strange reports began emerging from nearby towns. A teenage girl seen wandering the outskirts of Milford in a hospital gown, lights flickering violently in houses at 3:33 a.m., entire flocks of birds dropping dead near the Old River dock. One sighting described a girl mouthing something silently in the dark. Security footage later, enhanced, showed what she was saying. "I remember all of you." DNA analysis of a blood sample found at the site confirmed it. Nora Cavanaugh was alive, and she was no longer in the chamber. Subject 9. Investigators discovered that Ashcroft hadn't just worked with Nora. There were at least 8 other patients. Subject number 9 was still alive, under a false identity in Oregon. His name was Paul Renner. He'd been institutionalized for violent sleepwalking since 1998. When investigators interviewed him, he said, "I don't dream, but sometimes I wake up somewhere else, covered in water, with her voice in my head." What voice? She tells me who to find. His EEG showed abnormal activity, identical to Nora's records. But the moment investigators showed him her photo, he seized. His last words before losing consciousness. "She's still connected." The file that shouldn't exist. While reviewing sealed defense logs, a blacklisted file was uncovered titled, "Ashcroft Recovered, Initiative Reactivated." Timestamp, April 2023. It contained emails between defense contractors discussing Nora 2, predictive cognitive weaponization. One subject line. New specimen shows hybrid retention, no sedation needed. The name attached to the project lead? D. Ashton, the alias used by Ashcroft himself. Meaning, he never died. He never left. Setting up the finale. The last recovered surveillance footage from Mercy's ashes shows a figure walking through the ruins, barefoot, long gown dragging through soot. They stop, look up at the camera, and raise a finger to their lips. But here's the chilling part. The video wasn't dated 2023. It was from 1993. The footage was found looping in the chamber under room 3B, playing endlessly on an analog monitor, powered by a generator never connected to any power grid. And the final frame? A flash of red across the screen. Subject 1 active. Before we continue, a warning. What you're about to hear has been suppressed for over 30 years. This is not fiction. These are declassified memos, deathbed confessions, and private security footage leaked from a sealed federal archive. They don't want you to hear this. But if you've made it this far, you deserve the truth. Nora Cavanaugh was never meant to survive. But now that she has, We may all pay the price. The Lost Tape, Event Zero. In 2024, a fire broke out at the Raven Rock Emergency Archive, a military vault rumored to house failed biowarfare and psychological ops experiments. Among the recovered contents was a tape marked simply, Event Zero, June 18, 1986. It shows a teenage girl strapped to a chair in a white room. Her eyes are pinned open. A man, presumed to be Dr. Ashcroft, calmly says, "We're inside now. Phase 1 is stable." She sees what we tell her to see. Then a strange pulse hits the audio, a deep subsonic hum. The girl begins to smile. And over the next 23 seconds, every glass object in the room shatters. The test was later classified as uncontrolled psychic feedback response. They called it failure, but that wasn't the truth. They had created something else entirely. The theory, dream weapon. Independent researcher Dr. Nadine Voss, once a DARPA behavioral scientist, came forward after the Mercy leaks. In a 2-hour interview, she explained what the sleeper protocol really was. It wasn't about removing memory. It was about rewriting perception. Turn a child's trauma into loyalty. Turn pain into obedience. And if the subject dreams, that dream becomes your weapon. According to Dr. Voss, Nora was Phase 0, the first fully reactive dream weapon. They just didn't realize she retained full consciousness the entire time. They created a living signal. And they lost control. Death of Daniel Ashcroft. In February 2025, an unmarked corpse was discovered in a Baltimore hotel room. Facial reconstruction and dental records confirmed it was Daniel Ashcroft. The cause of death was baffling. No drugs, no wounds, no heart trauma, just complete cerebral shutdown. His brain had flatlined all electrical activity. On the wall beside him, scrawled in black ink, "I saw her again. She's static now." And beneath that, a drawing of a girl with no pupils. Project Static. Internal government memos show the sleeper protocol was quietly replaced by something called Project Static. The idea, if Nora was still alive, not physically but inside the signal, then she could replicate herself through data. Not cloning, not hacking, haunting. Static reports began increasing. Phones ringing with no caller. TV switching on at 3:33 a.m. Audio messages that couldn't be traced. A leaked dispatch from Homeland Cyber Defense reads, "We believe Subject 1 is replicating through white noise. Each device she touches becomes part of her echo." Nora's final message. In May 2025, a high school student named Bray Tucker in Idaho uploaded a TikTok of his baby monitor crackling in the middle of the night. He thought it was a glitch. But sound engineers enhanced the audio. A voice whispered, "I remember you. Don't sleep near mirrors." That same week, 17 people across 4 states reported identical dreams. A girl in a hospital gown, walking through fire, smiling. And in every dream, they woke up with blood trickling from their ears. The shutdown order. On June 3, 2025, an executive memo was issued by the Department of Strategic Anomalies. It ordered immediate dismantling of the Mercy Chamber, termination of any Subject 9 class entities, erasure of all digital files linked to the sleeper protocol. But 2 hours before the order was carried out, the building went dark. A single message appeared on every terminal screen. You shouldn't have watched. The backup generators never kicked in. Security footage ends with Nora's face staring directly into the camera. She blinks, smiles, and vanishes. The unending signal. Today, Mercy General is gone. The land was bought by a shell company and bulldozed. But the signal isn't gone. Reports of synchronized dreams, flickering TVs, and haunted frequencies continue. Experts believe it's no longer just Nora. She's become a template, a new kind of ghost, digital, cognitive, viral, and if you watch this far, she might already be in your dreams. Don't fall asleep. Not tonight. This concludes a series, The Doctors from Hell. Or does it?